I do believe that the retail is an easier route when it comes to conversion, especially working with a company like Rocket Mortgage.
Really kind of losing faith in that model. I saw a lot of great loan officers unfortunately leave over a 12-month period.
Let's face it, you don't have to sleep worrying about the bills. I mean, that's big, right?
That's the power of this model. You're not just dependent on, is the corporate call center going to invest the proper amount of money in leads and marketing on me?
Welcome to Shotcast. Daniel Iskander, co-founder of West Capital Lending. How's it going, my friend?
Hey, fun, Alex. Great to see you.
Good to see you too, my brother. So I've known you now for what, about a year and a half?
I think it was probably about a year ago now. You flew out, got to meet you in person with Adam, and yeah, it's been a wild ride. You've been helping us out a lot, and I appreciate it.
It has, man. It's been awesome knowing you, and it's nice knowing you because you started off at a spot with me, you know, as a retail banker. And looking at you years later, I think you own one of the biggest, if not the biggest brokerage in California right now, as far as I know, because I train a lot of those companies, and I don't see anybody with 300, 350 LOs running 20, 25 VPs, right? Running a independent model right now, which is the complete opposite of a retail model. So I wanted to bring you on here to kind of talk about your journey, what you've learned on the way, the pros and the cons of both sides of things. But before we get into all that, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Mr. Daniel?
We're here in Irvine, California. I live in Yorba Linda, been in the same house. Got 3 kids, a 4-year-old, a 6-year-old, and an 8-year-old. My wife's a physician at Kaiser, delivers babies for a living. She holds the record over at Kaiser, delivered 16 babies in a 24-hour period.
Wow.
And yeah, I love what I do. I've been in the mortgage industry since 2003. I got in, worked at Option One Mortgage in 2003, working in the servicing department, and really got my origination career taken off in 2004. Worked with a company called Home Loan Center, which was Anthony Shea's second company. And yeah, rode that for 5 years and then moved to, followed my wife out to Michigan. Never thought I'd leave California, but.
So 2004, you went to banking, right? You started banking.
Correct.
Before banking, what were you doing?
I was in college. I went and got my.
So that was like your first real gig.
First real gig. Right out of, graduated with a business degree in 2004. Thought I was going to law school. And my brother was working for a small broker and originating, and just said what the opportunity was in mortgage, and I was hooked. So,
got it. So your brother got you into it. You know, I was actually a paralegal and got my bachelor's in paralegal studies, going to law school as well, and I dropped it. Yeah. So that's nice. So okay, so you went into retail. What did you think joining the mortgage world after college? What was your first initial thoughts?
You know, it was probably the best environment that I could have ever been in, right? I was in my early 20s, you know, your first opportunity to make money out of college, and you start seeing guys driving fancy cars, BMW, Mercedes, Ferraris. I mean, it was wild times, right? You had all the products in the world. You start making $10,000 checks, $20,000 checks, $30,000 checks. The opportunities were endless. And so, you know, you didn't really have to think about leads or marketing, right? The company handled all that for you. And it was a competition, right? You against, you know, your peers, 200 loan officers, 300 loan officers, who's going to be the top dog? And I just thrived in that competitive situation and loved it. And so, you know, it was a great environment, and being in kind of that model.
So you went over to Quicken. How'd you like it over there? How long did you stay there? How was your experience there?
Quicken was great. Yeah, I started in October of 2009. I was with Jason Pace on Team Associates. I was the part of the first team that went into power banking. So right when they created that, we were originally paid on closings and green bar. I don't know if you remember that type of scenario. And we made that transition. So Jason Pace and that team was instrumental to my success. We were the number 1 team in the company. I think in 2011, I was the number 1 executive LO in the company, and I just loved it. It was just all competition, like scrapping and fighting for folders, and it was a lot of fun. So I love
What's the most money you made in the retail model as a retail banker?
I think in 2012, I think I had 56 folders or STPs or whatever you want to call it. Submitted loans into processing, and I think there was like a double commission month, and I think I made like 50 grand, maybe up there in that neighborhood. So
Nice. Now just
power banking for that type of scenario, that was pretty good money back then.
no, that's excellent money. We like to call them families enrolled.
Right.
No folders. The folders died. That's phenomenal. I'm gonna fast forward a bit. We're not gonna jump into it. What's the most money you made as a broker in a month?
294.
294,000?
94,000. That was just for my personal closings. I think I funded 46 loans that month. And yeah, biggest paycheck of my life.
1 point to the broker world, 0 to the retail. Let's keep it going. All right, so you're in the retail model. You made a nice check. You're starting to get the groove of things. What was your favorite parts about the retail model? And what made you leave the retail model?
You know, what caused me to leave retail was having, being in a scenario where I just wanted more control. I was VP of sales at Loan Depot. I had a couple hundred people, loan officers, 8 sales teams. And I was waking up at, 5:30 in the morning to run reports and look at emails. And, it was all about, cracking the whip, making sure LOs are logging in, call time, metrics. Everything was metric driven and stats and statistics and rankings. And I found myself like laying in bed and, still looking at emails at 8:00 at night. It was hard to detach. And I had just had my 3rd kid, Dylan. And I just kept on finding myself. I'm like, I just didn't have the time off. I didn't have the flexibility. I felt somewhat, kind of limited in my potential and where I wanted to go and flexibility and lifestyle. And so I knew that I wanted to make a transition out of that retail call center type of environment and kind of go independent. So
the biggest thing was just like the tasks, the schedule, the having to do things.
A little bit, but really kind of losing faith in that model. When I left in 2019, I saw a lot of great loan officers, unfortunately, leave over a 12-month period. Every top producer at Loan Depot at the time, there was 3 comp cuts, right? So, I'm going up there and explaining to everyone that it's a tough market and that, we got to make some changes to the comp plan. And we saw a lot of great people leave. And when you see that type of exodus and that amount of people, it just kind of, you start scratching your head at like, is this really what I want to be doing? And I really value and appreciate what a loan officer does and how hard their job is. And, when I started to see, top LOs making less than $10,000 a month in commissions, I just wasn't all about it. So I spoke up a little bit too much, actually got demoted. And I thought it was going to be the worst thing for me. And it actually ended up being the best opportunity in my life, pushing me to what I knew I wanted to do and to going to an independent platform and being, in control of the different aspects that I wanted to be in control of.
Yeah. Now, as far as like waking up early, cracking the whip, right? Reporting, data, analytics, things like this that we have to do. And the retail model typically is a leader. When I think about the broker model, wouldn't you agree that a successful broker, like a top broker, would have to also wake up early and check their own analytics and crack their own whip and see how their own marketing is going? And like, doesn't like success in both fields kind of come from the same things? Preparation, getting up early, taking a look at your gauges. Like, isn't that for all business people? Regardless of the business you're running, like I think of that as like a successful trait of somebody. Like, I can't wake up in the morning without checking my gauges. Where's my academy at? Where's my originations? What do I have in process? What did I do last month? What could I do this month? Who are my prospects? Who should I reach out to? Like all of these things should come with anywhere you go. Would you agree?
100% agree. There's a difference though when you're doing it for yourself or you're doing it for someone else. So I guess I'm speaking for me personally, right? For me personally, having that control, not having someone saying, You got 10 days of PTO. Can't take any more time off, right? But you're right. Success starts with waking up early. It starts with, implementing a plan, being aggressive, being a hustler, right? Motivating people, looking at stats, reverse engineering your numbers, everything that you taught and learned in the call center. I've taken that same approach and I apply it to an independent model to try to help people. Because if you're not strong with your numbers, if you're not metrically driven, if you don't know your stats, if you don't know your analytics, where your deals are coming from, how many deals you pulled credit on, you're flying blind, in my opinion. And unfortunately, I think that's really a lot of independent brokers, right? And they're funding, 1-2 loans a month, right? But that's not our MO, right? Our MO as a company is that we're going to dominate. We're going to, we want LOs to be able to, the same type of units and fundings that you can do in a call center and fund 15, 20, 30 loans in a month. We want to take that same approach, but do it independently with buying our own leads and our own marketing and our own strategies rather than being dependent on kind of the corporate structure and all the politics and the comp plans and everything that's kind of in that corporate model. So
Yeah. So what were the pros you liked about the retail model before we move to your journey getting into Westcap?
I think organization, the structure, the systematic approach to being able to plug a loan officer into something that's designed, it's built, and all they need to do is sell. That's it, right? If you can, learn how to build rapport with a client, right? Connect with them on a deep level, understand their needs, their wants, their desires, and how you can solve for that. The better you are at that, with the company handling everything else. They handle the marketing. How that client got delivered to you on a live transfer, you're not worried about that, right? Who's going to process the loan? You're not worried about that. What lender, what pricing, what strategy, you're not worried about any of that. It's just, you only have to focus on one aspect of the equation, and that's your ability to be able to connect and close that deal. And so I think for people starting out in the mortgage business in general, in my humble opinion, being a broker is like you're a black belt, right? You can't be a black belt unless you start out as a white belt. And so places like Rocket Mortgage and Loan Depot and Mr. Cooper and Amerisave, there's probably no better place to start your career than at one of these companies. They're going to do their best to solve for everything else for you, let you be a salesperson, learn to be the art of sales, the ability to just focus on the close and the sale, the products, and they'll handle the rest.
If you want to be the best, you got to learn from the best, right? What better place to go to than some of these top companies that have been doing this for years and years and decades to learn and consume all the information you need. So then you could move on, like you said, to the broker world and be a black belt. So I'd say that's a positive for the retail model, right? The retail model is like, let's face it, you don't have to sleep worrying about the bills. I mean, that's big, right? I've owned businesses before, like worrying about who's going to show up tomorrow. Playing therapy for everybody that comes in. You're a therapist. It's your second family in your business, right? Having the leads, having somebody take care of the process, being able to clock out with no worries and stress. That's a big pro of retail, right?
100%.
So we're at 1-1 so far, points wise. We're going to be collecting these points throughout the show. You left Rocket. Did you have it right in your mind? I'm opening a broker shop, or like when you left Rocket and you left retail banking, what was on your mind? How did that transition work? How did this come?
The only reason I left Rocket was I had moved back from living in Michigan to moving back to California, and I was working remote, and I had an opportunity to run a sales team. And so I didn't, I had 2 stints between leaving Rocket and actually becoming a broker and then a broker owner. So yeah, I hated resigning from Rocket, to be honest with you. I think it was in 2012 or 2013. And it really, I lost a little bit of sleep for a couple nights, thinking, am I making the right decision? Because it's a great company, great leadership, great structure, the camaraderie, The organization, I mean, what a great organization. And I truly, I guess for me personally, and I feel blessed to be aligned with Rocket on the wholesale side because it aligns with still all the great things that I love about the company. So,
Yeah. But you guys are doing a great job for the company as well. I believe you guys are the #1 brokerage right now for Rocket.
yes,
Okay, so how did West Capital come about? How was that?
West Capital came about. We were working at a different brokerage. I had grown a team of about 30 loan officers in 2020, being independent, being an originator and running 30 originators. And we closed 5,000 loans that year. I think I closed about 140 million myself. And
You were running a team at a brokerage, or you're an independent broker on your own?
nope, I was an originator at eMortgage Capital. I was running the #1 team. I had self-sourced and recruited loan officers to be part of my team, and I was originating. So I was running a team and originating loans in 2020.
Were any challenges going from retail to the broker world up front in the beginning? Because it seems like you kicked off pretty well.
You know, what I did personally, I took all the same things that I'd learned in the call center and I applied the same mentality, reversing the engineering your numbers, right? Buying leads from all the providers that I had been used to within the call center, Free Rate, LendingTree, Lower My Bills, Lendilio, RateZip, all these different providers. And so I really just took that approach of just buying a lot of the same leads. And rather than the company paying for the leads directly and paying me a very small split on the deal, I would just buy the leads and engage. So no, it really rocket shipped up within 60 days of originating, and I hadn't originated loans in almost 8 years because I was running teams and managing. I had 52 loans in my pipeline, right? I didn't even barely have an office set up. I didn't have processors. I was trying to self-process my loans. And that's when I really knew that it was scalable and I could kind of grow from there. So,
Got it. All right. So you do 5,000 loans with a team at this broker shop.
yep,
Were they paying you good at the shop?
they were paying me good. Absolutely.
All right. So you made a good check. And then what sparked it and said, West Capital, we're doing this?
March 3, 2021. I think it was March 3 or March 5. Whatever.
Wow, it hasn't even only less than 2 years. Wow.
I was sitting there.
That's crazy growth.
I had a 400 loan pipeline and I was originating, and I about 50% of my business was going to Rocket. About 50% of my business was going to UWM. Loved UWM, loved Rocket, right? Wanted to be able to utilize both of them. And Facebook Live came out. Matt Ishbia came out and said, guys, if you're going to, if you want to work with United Wholesale Mortgage, you can't work with Rocket. And I literally kind of threw my mouse down and got all pissed off because we had gone through a very challenging time with United Wholesale Mortgage. Right at the onset of COVID, they were taking, 3 weeks, 4 weeks to be able to buy loans off of a warehouse line. There was a lot of post-closing challenges. Pricing was completely erratic through a difficult time. And so long story short, I was very upset with the news. And at that moment, I stopped all origination activities. I pulled my team up and we met at a hotel, and I did a big announcement that if the direction of this company, this broker that I was at, was going to be aligned with UWM and that they were going to cut off access to Rocket Mortgage, that was the catalyst, and I was going to start my own company.
Wow. I didn't know that's what actually created it.
Yeah. I rented out the Marriott Hotel in Anaheim and had 75 people show up and put a big PowerPoint presentation saying, hey guys, I'm going to open up a company. I didn't even have the name of the company. Didn't have the license, entity. And a lot of people trusted me to make the right decision, and they believed that Rocket was a good partner and that it wasn't right to not be able to have them as an option, right? I'm independent. I can choose whoever I want to be able to work with. So if I want to choose Rocket. So yeah, I literally shut down the operation. I didn't originate a loan for 3.5, 4 months. I locked myself in an office with Eric for 30 days, trying to come up with a plan to be able to put a platform together so that I could move over. I had about 30 something people plus processors, and Eric, my co-founder and business partner, he had about 20 people. So we just stopped everything that we were doing and then figured out how to be able to do this on our own. And that's really how West Capital Lending was created.
Got it. So it started with around 50 people.
Yep.
Nice. And was there any growing pains from March?
Oh, my God.
How'd you guys get from 50 to, 400 now, right?
Yeah, I just think people heard about what we were doing. We were doing something that was a little different than the typical broker. Typical broker, back then, the idea of just working realtor relationships and doing this and that, when they started to see our numbers, funding a team of 30 guys, funding 400 loans in a month, it was like unheard of. So we accounted for 45, almost 50% of the company's production, the previous broker that we were at. And by us leaving, it was a big deal. And so it's attracted a lot of people in our local market, and a lot of consumer direct loan officers that are working in these call centers would hear about these, $100,000 checks, $200,000 checks, and they wanted to check it out. And so once they validated that, hey, this is a legit process, I can work the same hours with the same leads, the same process, but if I just pay for the marketing on my own, I can make 4x, 5x the commission, be independent, and in control of all the different things that I want to be in control over. And it just became very, just a very attractive model that we were filling up orientation classes. We were bursting at the seams. We'd have a big orientation training room, and it would be filled every 2 weeks. We could fit about 8 to 10 people in the room, and every 2 weeks for a year straight, it was filled. And it's almost still, like that today, as we're seeing more and more people. Again, there's a great place for retail and consumer direct loan officers, especially early on in your career. But for the experienced originator that is wanting a little bit more flexibility, a little bit more compensation, more control over different aspects of their business, the broker model is very, very attractive. And
so the broker model you're saying is the biggest advantage is obviously you make more money, you're working for yourself, and you're independent, right?
You're also taking care, in my opinion, you're taking care of your client. Like you're running into a lot of, a lot of different retail lenders are raising margins right now. Volume is down dramatically. And so, what you're able to offer your client on this platform is definitely more attractive than the majority of your large retail lenders that spend.
So you control the price as well.
Correct.
But you would still agree that in order to be successful on the broker model, especially right now, you would have to operate it kind of like a retail model.
Absolutely.
But as in your own business.
Correct.
There's one thing that I think what I've noticed, because I've written loans on both sides. I've shadowed at broker shops and gone undercover and seen how it works there and originated, and I've originated in retail. And one of the things that I think is a positive of retail, I could sell regardless of how I get the lead or how I market. I trust in my ability. But there is something special, or that at least makes me think, and maybe I'm mistaken, tell me if you disagree with me, the big red machine marketing and me getting these leads first, right? To get somebody first on a phone call, to be that first conversation, to spend an hour and a half with somebody where there's already brand recognition built. I do believe that the retail is an easier route when it comes to conversion, especially working with a company like Rocket Mortgage, who has all the bells and whistles and is doing everything right and is expanding into communities and all these different companies and doing all these crazy things and is omnipresent everywhere. And I feel like I get a little bit of a competitive advantage when I get that phone call and I'm the first person they speak to, compared to a broker who talks to somebody as a 9th or 10th person. It's kind of like getting into 7 fights in a day. Are you going to have the same energy the 7th fight or the first fight? 7 dates in a night. Are you going to have the same energy and the same, attraction on the first date than you do at the 7th? Do you think I'm wrong in that aspect, or what do you think about that?
No, I think you're right. 1,000%. Brand is important, right? There's a reason why I remember Bill Emerson, talking about their wanting to go to think we were at 3% market share, and this idea that they were going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars into brand and engineer to amaze. That was the slogan back then. And you get a lot of bright minds that are willing to invest hundreds of millions of dollars into regards to marketing because brand matters. And so I couldn't agree with you more. Technology matters, right? You're going to beat me to the punch every single time. That client, when I was at Loan Depot, we would measure it in the milliseconds. If we were off a couple milliseconds between the dialer trying to reach out to the client, and if there was any slowness or delay, right, you'd see a massive drop in conversion, right? And so you guys have the brand, you have the best technology, you have great bankers, you have training, right? And your speed to contact to be able to get in touch with that client and have first crack at that opportunity to close that deal is a massive competitive advantage over a guy like me. 1,000%.
Okay, so that would be another pro of in the retail world. I think in 2020 and 2021, it was fair to say that you could be independent. You don't really have to run a retail model. You don't have to come in early. You could still find success. You could still crack a nice check. You could still stay consistent because the market was nice and friendly. Now we're in a market where I like to call it, the survivor's market. Let's see who's really about it. Let's see who the real salespeople are. Let's see who the real business people are, right? Because I think if somebody could survive in this market and be a top performer in this market, they can be a top performer in anything they do. And I truly believe that, right? Because I think everything in life connects. So now you have these people in the independent model. I'm sure you have some of them with your company. They're not putting in the grind. They're not marketing. They're not doing the analytics, the reports. They're not really treating it as a business. And they're falling on their face. Either they're originating nothing or they're originating one or they're pacing for a year of 10, 15 closings. What do you think the problem is with these people? Is it that they just don't want it? Or is it that they don't think it's achievable? Or have they never seen anything like it before? Or are they doing something else on the side? What do you think it is that's causing a majority of these brokers? I sent you a shop today that shut down, 150 LOs, right? Why are these shops starting to shut down? Why are there a lot of brokers that are struggling, in your opinion?
Let me first share some stats that I heard today.
Okay.
In 2022, there was 430,000 licensed MLOs across the U.S. Today, after the renewals that just passed, there are 216,000 licensed MLOs.
50%,
right?
Decrease, yeah.
50% decrease, right? So, the reason why, in my opinion, why did I get into the business when I was 22 years old, right? 20 years ago. It was easy money, right? Sales, easy entry. I can earn $10,000 right out of school or right, even if you didn't go to college, right? It was easy money. Well, guess what, right? Mortgage is cyclical. It's a roller coaster ride. And right now is one of the hardest times that I've personally ever gone through. It's very similar to 2007 and 2008. I went through that, right? Being in the business 20 years, I never got out of mortgage. I stayed in mortgage my entire career. And I would say that other than 2007 and 2008, this is definitely the most difficult time ever. So, people, young licensed MLOs that got into the business because it was very lucrative and rates were low and it was very easy and you didn't really have to operate with the same type of intensity and drive and passion that sales normally takes to be able to get a client to convert. They got into the business and now it's much, much harder, right? And so you're definitely seeing the weak people that just looked at this as not really a career in mortgage. They're going to go sell cars. It's easier. Hey, tons of money in cars, or, sell solar, sell debt settlement, sell watches, right? They're going to figure out an easier way and they're going to quickly exit the industry. And I think that, the true professionals, the people that are in this they view this as a career and this is their profession and this is what they do, whether the rates are at 12%, 8%, or 3%, they're going to work their ass off, right? And they're going to figure out how to be able to make it work. But to your point, I agree. There are a lot of loan officers, at West Capital. They don't fund loans, right? Maybe they fund one loan, right? But then you also got a guy that made $140,000 last month, right? And that treats his business like a professional. He knows that he has to invest the appropriate amount of money on marketing. He understands what his ROI is on his marketing and what he needs to be able to do. He understands different technologies, different marketing tactics, right? When you're an independent broker, you're not just an originator. You're the marketer, you're the prospector, and you're the originator. You're wearing all three hats. And so you're going to get commission on all three of those different job roles because you got to do all three, right? And some people are not cut out to endure the pains of this industry when you go through, a market cycle as challenging as what it is. It's not easy, right? Even for a guy like you, like me, that has tons of experience, you feel like you're a top closer. Anyone you get on the phone, you're going to be able to, you got your pitch, you're going to build rapport, you're going to analyze their situation, you're going to provide solutions, and you're going to close and ask for the business with arcing and ARPing, and it's still hard in today's market. And so it doesn't surprise me to know that 50% of these LOs are throwing in the towel. And I feel like it's a good, healthy thing for our industry to go through because, a lot of people got in when it was easy.
I 100% agree with you. And you mentioned solar and car sales and going to different industries. Look, if you understand the value of cash and you know what to do with cash, then you understand the easiest thing to sell is cash, right? So you shouldn't steer yourself away from that. You should push yourself towards that, right? Because you know the value of that. So in my eyes, I think that people that are steering away don't actually understand the value of money. A lot of these brokers don't have money or don't make good investments or don't have a lot of experience. So they don't understand how to really help somebody with money. So I think the first thing a broker should do, if you're listening out there, is really learn and educate yourself about money, about real estate, about stocks and bonds, about assets, about, how to create more wealth in people's life. Learn about all of that so you could actually educate over sell. Right? You talked about the top broker that made $140,000. What's the biggest difference between them and somebody on the bottom right now in your eyes?
Closing ability is one thing, but if you don't have the raw material to be able to work with, you're always going to fail. And so he understands the cost to originate a loan. And that's a powerful, powerful thing, right? I have an LO that comes in and spends $500 on a lead or on leads and said, oh, this is a bad lead source, right? When we know that the data says it's going to cost $1,500 in leads to get that one deal. So if an LO says, I want to fund 10 loans at Westgap, I say, okay, well, right now, if you do this and this and this lead source, right? We're all about data analytics and reverse engineering your numbers. We're going to say, you got to spend $15,000. Are you ready to spend $15,000 on yourself, right? And so that's the power of this model. You're not just dependent on is the corporate call center going to invest the proper amount of money in leads and marketing on you, right? You got politics and tiers and conversion and, where you've gone on vacation and all these different aspects of it, right? So in this model, that top LO that made money said, I'm banking on myself. I know that the cost to originate a loan for me is, let's say, $1,000, right? So he'll just say, all right, if I want to make $140,000, I gotta invest $14,000. Maybe it's $20,000. Maybe it's $25,000, right? So he understands the avenues to be able to market, where he needs to invest the money, what is return on his money, what return on marketing is he going to get, and then he implements his marketing strategy and then does what he does on this from a sales ability and closing ability to be able to get those to convert. So it's not just raw sales talent and ability. It's how much are you spending in money in marketing? What is your marketing plan? And the combination of those two is what's going to lead to 100,000, 200,000 in even a market where people are struggling to fund one loan. So,
well, thank you. That's a very good answer. So it's not only about the sales, but it's also about putting in the work, knowing your numbers, spending the money, investing in yourself, right? You guys were virtual during COVID, right? I did a couple of trainings with some of your teams, right? We've seen great success with them, some 5-6x increases. And I've noticed that you've brought a big majority back into the office. Do you think being in the office right now is something that's necessary for maximum success?
Yes.
What have you seen the differences? Because you went from a time having a couple of people in the office to now I see 50, 100 people, meet and greets, lunch, breakfast. I see you guys like actually, bringing that culture back. What's the biggest difference you notice of people in the office and when they're not in the office?
Culture is really what's going to drive an organization, right? You have to, like and appreciate who you work with. You have to believe in the company and the culture, and being around people is important. I think COVID created a very unique situation, right? And I think the market made up for the difference by obviously having so much opportunity with what you could do to, sell a 2.75 30-year fix to a client. You could, it's like very easy to convert. But in today's market, I think it's important, when you're hearing the guy next to you and he just got a deal on the board and he's there, grinding it out, overcoming objections, building rapport with the client, doing all the things and you hear that competitive side, right? If we're choosing this industry, we're all competitive, we're in sales, right? That's going to motivate me to want to be able to do the same thing. You don't really have that ability when you're at home. You don't have the same type of drive and intensity. I'm going to do whatever it takes to be able to close this deal. So I feel like it is a significant advantage being around people, having a company culture, hearing other people on the phones. Everything that I learned in 20 years of being in mortgage, I learned from someone else. I didn't just come up with the stuff on my own. I've learned stuff from you. I've learned stuff from guys that I sat next to 20 years ago, maybe even some of the same phrases, the same type of analogies, the same type of overcoming objections. I've learned it from other people. And so if you're a new loan officer and let's just say you got into the business during COVID, you only worked from home by yourself, right? And so I think the power of having other people around you is incredibly important, not only to learning and developing and your sales ability from other people around you, the culture and camaraderie and competition of people around you. All of those things are a significant competitive advantage for coming into the office. And I try to encourage everyone that's local to us to make the time investment, show up.
Yeah. But it's pretty much optional. You don't really mess with anybody if they want to stay home.
That's right.
There is no oh, you guys do originations, you have to come in the office. You're completely hands off your brokers, right?
Independent model. We're not enforcing people. There's no tiers, there's no structure, there's no requirements. If you want to take off for a month, not show up at the office, not originate, not buy leads, not work, that's up to you, right?
And you're hiring now. You're always hiring, right?
We're always bringing on great LOs, looking for top LOs. And right now we have 8 people in our orientation class right now.
Nice. How much are you going to pay me per referral on this episode?
Let's do it, man. Let's do it.
So if you're listening to this call, Daniel Iskander, I'll put his information in the bio for you guys. Reach out to him. I'm not going to say the specifics, but I work with broker companies nationwide. Even got one in Canada now, so I could say I'm worldwide, right? Can I say that?
Oh, worldwide.
Yeah. Canada's all adjustables, by the way. It's fun. It's a fun market. But if you're from the broker shops I've worked with, I think I could almost say I know, but I'm not. You have the most handsome compensation plan I've seen. So
I care about the LOs, man.
Just gonna throw that out there. Danny literally makes chump change, and the majority of the money, I believe, the heavy majority goes to the LOs. He's building this thing out the right way, and he cares about his people. So definitely recommend it. Hit me up. If you join West Capital, you'll get the Acez Academy training for free. We'll give you all the resources and tools to be a top LO. We know what works. We know what doesn't. If you follow the plays, there is no way that you can't be successful. It just won't happen because we're doing it every single day, and I'm originating right there with you every single day. So the people in the academy are doing well. What would you say a top broker right now should be closing and submitting every single month in your eyes?
The opportunity is still tremendous. And I think that if you're doing 15 to 20 submissions and you have good pull through, 75 to 80%, right? There's no reason why you should figure out how to close, 12 to 15 loans a month, right? Without killing yourself, So, and we're still seeing that today,
So one thing that, I get a lot from people, even some of your people, is marketing. Everybody's buying the same. The leads that you said you were buying 5 years ago are the same exact leads people are buying today. There hasn't been a lot of change and lead flow strategy in the industry. Like if I were to open up West Capital to East Capital, right? Even though I wouldn't, because I'd be at West Capital. But if I was to open up East Capital, like if I have a broker shop, how do you gain a competitive advantage on lead sourcing? Like I haven't heard anybody come up with anything crazy saying like, ooh, I have this golden list of leads, or ooh, I found this golden connect, or ooh, I found this beautiful network that we could leverage. Like, how do you find a competitive edge and get lead sourcing that's not being ran through the pipe with everybody?
I think, unfortunately, we're all going to be kind of very in the same boat. There's only so many digital marketers that are out there that are going to be doing ad placement. If you're doing the aggregate lead game, it's all been the same players, and so I would say there's going to be some small niche players, right, that aren't readily out there and available to everyone. So you definitely have to know certain sources that we try to share with our independent brokers. There's a lot of strategies and technology, even if you're utilizing the same, lead provider on, how to be able to attract that client, how to be able to close that client, right? So, and then the last thing I'll say is, the riches are in the niches, right? So there are some specific things that we'll do at West Capital that are very niche-y, that are very exclusive, that we don't want to be able to share with everyone, right? The loan officer that I'm talking about that, did 140,000. He's very creative, right? People are talking about how direct mail is dead, right? But yet he's doing direct mail, but he's doing something a little different than everyone else, right? And he's getting creative on his approach to be able to get clients to call in, and it's working for him. So I
like that. The riches are in the niches. I'd say the riches are in the ditches. You got to get dirty right now. I used to say in 2022 that, your resources are your weapons. You want to be a successful LO or a successful business person, leverage all your resources, right? Mailers, social media, paid marketing, Facebook ads, blah, 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 text, voicemail, emails, calling multiple times a day. And then I said, take it a level further. Show me what's inside those resources. Whose mailer looks better, whose voicemail sounds better, whose text looks better. That was my mentality in 2022. Do you know what the new mentality is now in 2023? What I truly believe the competitive advantage is for every single broker and business person out there when it comes to gaining clients, gaining realtors, networking, going to a life insurance company, exchanging clients, going to your lawyer, your accountant, getting them to put your business card on their desk. Do you know what I think the biggest secret to that is? Providing value to get value.
I agree.
I ran a training with WestCap. It's recorded. It's a very good one. It was 2 weeks ago on realtor referrals. And that whole training was based on Daniel. Like, don't be the person that calls a realtor and says, hey, think about me next time you get a deal, or send me a deal, or give me a shot, because they got a million give me a shots, right?
Yeah.
Don't be one of the guy in the crowds that's, DMing the same girl. She has 1,000 DMs from the same guy saying the same shit. Don't be one of those guys. Get creative. Give value to get value. So how do you do that? You call a realtor and you say, what's one thing you're missing from your LO that you wish you had? I wish I had a little more education. Then boom, that's the value. You show up on education, weekly emails on education. You run a training on education. You put in the work. Riches are in the ditches. You put in the work for 3 months. Then you say, all right, so I've been doing all this for you. I've been helping. Here's a great success story. Now are you ready to give me a shot? And I think if you could play it slow, instead of instant gratification, go for delayed gratification, that's how you're going to win. And then I called the realtor on the call with the West Cap people. You could ask him. I called the realtor on speaker.
Wow.
I've never asked him for leads. And I said, who do you send your business to right now? I've never asked you that before. He named a brokerage. I said, why do you send your business there? He said, because they send me leads back. I said, boom, there's the value. He's getting leads. He's giving leads. There's a give and take relationship.
Yeah.
If they weren't sending leads, why else would you send your business there? They guarantee me the cheapest rate. Rate. He cares about rate and he cares about getting business. So what did I tell him? I said, look, I don't want you to leave them. What's one thing you wish they would do better? You know what he said? Communication. He said you could never, ever over communicate. What do you mean by that? He said, put your buyer's hat on and pretend you're buying your first house. People have a lot of questions. I'm showing 20, 30 houses a day, talking to 10, 11 clients. I don't got time to answer all these questions. And his lender is not showing up and providing value there. So what did I do? Don't give me any business, okay? I'm going to BCC you on all the emails I send throughout a day. I want to show you a little bit how my process works. Conditional approval, closings, when there's a listing agent, when there's an open house, everybody gets an email. The realtor, the client, the LO, the broker, everybody gets an email, right? And then I advertise it on social. I showed him that I could show up to that. So every single day I put a note on my whiteboard in front of me, show value to Nick with communication. And every single day I show up for communication. I was telling them, now the value for him is communication. Then at the same time, I get a client, I ship him his way. I say, hey, I got you a client. They're looking for a house. Then at the same time, I guarantee the lowest rates. So now I'm providing the same value that your shop is doing, but I'm bringing the value add for what you're missing. But guess what? I didn't ask him for a lead because I'm still working with him, showing him the value. But next month when I call him, he already offered to give me a shot. I said, I don't want it yet. My work's not done, right? But who's willing to get sick in the head like that and provide different value for every client? All right. I talked to somebody yesterday. They're a widow twice. Okay. Lost 2 wives in the last 5 years. I'm about to send my brand email. I freeze. I say, hold on. It has a picture of me, my wife, and my son. And like a forest, nature picture, right? I deleted that picture and I sent them the email. Like, that's emotional intelligence. That's branding to every single client, providing value to every single person. So this show's called Shotcast. If you want one shot of inspiration from me, it's, look, 2023 is about figuring out the individual value of every single person, providing that value and being omnipresent to that value, to the like, God damn, this guy, Alex, man, he communicates like a motherfucker. This guy's been emailing me for 3 months. I got to give him a shot. Getting sick in the head with it, right? And then I showed them how to hack it into their calendar. That's my shot, Danny. End us with one shot of inspiration for everybody listening. Broker, retail, whoever's out there. What do you got for them?
Quick. Yeah, sure. I'll share this. We had Glenn Stearns from Kind Lending. He's a mortgage industry icon since the 80s. He's a billionaire, and I got to meet him today, and we had him lead our a training in front of our group. And just like you said, over communicating. My piece of advice is a reminder to everyone that the mortgage business is a relationship business. And there is, it doesn't matter the amount of data, it doesn't matter the amount of tech, your tech stack, your tenacity, all those different things. But if you lose touch with the fact that you have to care about people, you have to have, like you said, emotional intelligence, right? Removing that picture of your family to that individual. That shows that you care, right? You are trying to have an impact on that person's life. And right now, people need us, right? People are hurting. Debt levels are at the highest levels that we've seen in, 25 years. People are in debt. They need help. They need an advisor. And the person that understands the need, builds a relationship, and really actually truly cares. When they get on the phone, yes, we gotta build rapport, we gotta close, we gotta overcome their objections. But a client can sense are you just out there for the sale, or do you actually care about my situation and improving my family situation? And I just think that's a reminder to everyone. Times are tough like that. Focus on the person, focus on the relationship, care about their situation. And the amount of referrals and a business is tremendous. And that's what I think is important. And I'll say that, I'll leave this with, the secret sauce of like the data and, is there an additional lead source or whatever? The lead source is you're organically growing your business. So you do the right things, you're helping out people. They're going to care about you. They want you to succeed. They want to refer you business. And it's like a spider web. I can share so many different scenarios where I helped one client out and then they spread it out and I got 30 deals from, a network of people. And so, if you're that loan officer or broker owner and you're struggling out there, you got to do all the same things. You got to have the tech, you have the data, you have to invest the money, you have to have the sales ability, you have to have the hustle and the grit. You're going to have to work around the niches and figuring out the strategy. But the relationship side is absolutely paramount to the success of your shop and your ability. And I can't stress that enough.
I think that just comes with being a great human in general. If you're a great human, you're going to have great relationships. Which you are a great human, my friend, and I appreciate you being on the show.
Appreciate it.
Thanks so much. Daniel Iskander, everybody. West Capital Lending, founder. Let us up. Shotcast. Thank you.